Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. I'm here with a replay of round 3 of a Modern Friendly League. Let's have a look at my opening hand. Now, the opponent won the die roll, and this is a mulligan, unfortunately. This is a keep. Opponent kept. That guy sadly has to go to the bottom. We're going to want another blue source pretty quickly. Windswept Heath go. Not sure what that is yet. Kira is awkward because, again, we don't have that second blue source, but we do get to hold up Spell Pierce here. But against a Windswept Heath deck, odds are we're not going to have a target for Spell Pierce on the opponent's turn. Okay, Forest, Devoted Druid, go. So it looks like Devoted Company. I drew another Island Walk Lord. I thought I put that guy on the bottom, but he only went 2 cards down. All right, Spreading Seas on the Temple Garden, hoping to keep them off of Vizier of Remedies. Did not draw another blue source. This mulligan is turning out really poorly. Okay, Dwine and Delete. Not Devoted Company, just Elves, which is so much worse for us. Right, emptying their hand, doing the best to do so at least. Master of Waves is good if we had AEther Vial and maybe another couple of lands. As it stands, all I can do is pass the turn. Ugh. Really terrible. I mean, I have a Harbinger. Couldn't have bounced that guy anyway. So yeah, we are just going to get run over. Dwine and Delete again. For a second, I thought I could counter this Court of Calling, but of course he can untap Devoted Druid, so I'm just going to lose this game. He gets to go get the Vizier, so I think I'm just going to scoop at this point because he's got infinite mana. So the Elves deck, there was one in the top 8 of the recent GP. I think it was Toronto. Pretty much this list, I think. These guys run a singleton Vizier of Remedies and a 4 of Devoted Druid. Devoted Druid is actually an elf. It's a little clunky as a 2-drop. Elves want a lot of 1-drops. But the fact that it can provide 2 mana kind of makes up for it, and the fact that it goes infinite with Vizier of Remedies definitely makes up for it. So they run the playset of this, and then they run a playset of Court of Calling and Collected Company. And if they hit Vizier of Remedies, of course, it's a 2-card combo. They can either empty their hand and go bananas, or they can just play Azuri and pump infinite mana to him. Even with a single creature, that's enough to win the game. So we didn't get to play Magic, very sadly. I don't know that if I had gotten another land or 2, we would have been able to get there against this draw. They had the Cord, and we couldn't stop it with the Spell Pierce. So yeah, we probably would have lost this game anyway. All right, look away if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to go out of this window now. Let's check out the sideboarding strategy here. All right, what did I take out? Let's look. 2 Reejereys, 1 Spreading Seas, 2 Kiras, obviously, and the 2 Spell Pierces. The 2 Spell Pierces were outclassed by like turn 3, so they're just not really good. So that's 5, 6, 7, and then I brought in 2 Dismembers. That's one of the best cards in the matchup. 1 of my Echoing Truth. It's not amazing against Elves because if you bounce a couple of mana dorks, then they can just play them back out really easily. Of course, bouncing like an Arch Druid is good. Bouncing 2 big attackers can be good, but it costs 2 to play Echoing Truth, and our mana is usually just super critical in such a fast matchup. We can't often afford to leave up 2 for Echoing Truth, so I only brought in 1. 2 Dismembers, 1 Echoing Truth, 2 Dispels, which hits all 8 of their bomb instant spells, the Cocos and the Court of Calling. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's see. Okay, I brought in both Negates, both Dispels, 1 Echoing Truth, and 2 Dismembers. All right. So 4 counterspells and 3 ways to interact with their creatures. It's sort of the best we can do. We need interaction against this deck. It's one of our worst matchups. I took out 2 Reejereys because they're a little bit clunky. you might have noticed I didn't take out any Master of Waves. If they don't get to Uzuri, actually, even if they do, Master of Waves is really the only way we can compete with their hands that go really wide. So Master of Waves is actually really, really good in this matchup, even though we don't often get to cast him with 4 mana. I took out 1 Spreading Seas because we don't really want to get a hand full of Spreading Seas. We need to get creatures on the board. Even though we really want Island Walk in the matchup, most of their green mana is usually in the form of creatures. So I just trimmed 1 Spreading Seas. 2 Kiras are totally useless in the matchup. Yeah, so that's the sideboard strategy. 4 counter spells and 3 ways to interact with their creatures. This is a very, very nice hand. If they play a turn 1 Mono Dork, we can kill it with Dismember. And I love seeing the opponent mulligan in these kinds of terrible matchups. And he put the card on the bottom, so we might have a chance in this game. There's going to be Island Go. The reason a mulligan is particularly awesome in this scenario is that they might have kept a hand with like 1 land and a couple of elves, including maybe like 1 Mono Dork. So if they play the Mono Dork and we kill it, they could potentially be slowed down a ton. And that's what they did. So killed the Mono Dork, drew another Island Walk Lord. So we are on the Lord plan now. Just Lord go, Lord go, Lord go. Here's a Nettle Sentinel go. The opponent did have a second land, but they didn't have too much. They didn't have any more ramp, which is really nice to see. Looks like I drew a Mutavault, which I can just play out immediately, play the Lord, and swing for 3. Another Nettle Sentinel. Can't attack with the first one, and so no third land. So this is just going terribly for the Elves player. I'm going to jam another Lord, activate the first Mutavault, and swing for 13 here. The opponent's going to go all the way down to 3. Choosing not to block with their Elves, and they just scooped it up at that point. So very, very easy game 2. We can get hands that line up well against their hands. We got a fortunate mulligan on the opponent's side. So 1-1 against the Elves deck. Look away if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out now. All right, back for game 3. The Elves player is going to be on the play, which is horrible for us. Because the matchup is so poor, I'm kind of afraid to mulligan this away. We've got a Dispel for a Chord. We've got early bodies with Cursecatcher, and can potentially just go huge with Master of Waves. So chose to keep it, but the opponent kept as well, and that probably spells bad news for us. But Razorverge Go seems pretty nice. We did not draw a land, which is what we wanted to see, instead drawing an Island Walk Lord. Devoted Druid means they might be going straight for the infinite mana combo. Okay, got a land, very nice. But I can't afford to tap out from Lord of Atlantis here, because I've got the Dispel in hand. I'll just play a Cursecatcher. Okay, they play an Archdruid, untap. Now it's cool interaction because they can untap twice because of the buff on from the Lord. But if I do draw an Echoing Truth, I can bounce the Archdruid, which will then kill the Devoted Druid, and that would be an absolute blowout. So, you know what? Now that Elves are playing these guys, it might actually have become more correct to bring in both copies of Echoing Truth. So again, if I bounce the Lord, this guy's currently a -1/1, only because the Lord's on the table. If I bounce the Lord, this guy's going to quickly become a -2/0, and having 0 toughness, he would just die. So, and that would be a huge blowout. So I'm just praying for my Echoing Truth here. All right, we'll take Aether Vial up. We drew a land. We're getting close to these Master of Waves. And we've got Counter Magic up. I decided to just play the Lord, representing that I have something good with Aether Vial, potentially making the opponent hold back on their attacks. Okay, tapping for mana with Devoted Druid, and then tapping a bunch of other stuff, including creatures, which means Court of Calling. We've got the Dispel in hand. Of course, the opponent knows that he's got me covered on the Cursecatchers with Archdruid, who can tap for 4 mana at this point. So let's Dispel that. And he can tap, let's see. Okay, so 4 mana, he's going to play Uzuri. He's got 1 mana left. Now, Uzuri is rough. because he's got 5 mana across his Elves, which means a single activation of Reejerey. It makes these guys like a 6/6, 6/6. It's probably not lethal next turn, which means we should be able to get this AEther Vial up to 4. You know, we are doing our best against this deck, but if we look at what they've done so far, they've ramped into an Archdruid. It makes tons of mana. They had the Chord for infinite mana. They had the Reejerey in hand. So at this point, if they get the infinite mana on, combo online, we're just screwed. But we're doing what we can. AEther Vial went up to 3. We didn't really want to draw another Island Walk Lord there. Another land would have been better. But if we get to next turn, it's okay because it's a lot more devotion. Now we have a good attack here. I chose not to take it, but part of the value of these replays is getting to re-examine my decision-making process. Assume that the opponent doesn't have a lot going on next turn. If they just play a couple of mana dorks, maybe an Elvish Visionary. They can tap for a bunch of mana. Let's say they just get 1 activation. They could swing for 2, 6, 6. That's 14 plus 5, 19. So on board, it looks like, let's just go through that again. That's 6, 6, 12 plus 5 is 17 plus 2 from the single activation. So yeah, I could go down to, and if I attack, I can get in for 9 here. But I think defense is the best strategy here. It really kind of stinks when Reejerey gets out with all this mana because he can regenerate anybody we choose to block. I don't know, attacking might have been correct. So they have a Pendelhaven here. They're tapping creatures again. So that means they get to get their Singleton Vizier. I don't have another Dismember in hand. And so, yeah, we're just going to get infinite mana'd out here. I think that I let him actually, buff his guys a fair amount. So, let's see. I don't want bananas. I'm gonna actually click through the end of the turn. I think I can do that. Yeah. So he made him up to like 18, 17, 14. I think that's 3 activations of Reejerey. Nothing I could do about it. I think you can see here that leaving the Master of Waves in is better. The Spell Pierces wouldn't have done anything. They had mana to cover me on Spell Pierce, so it was correct to take those out. In hindsight, it would have been correct to bring in the second Echoing Truth. I think that since they're running the infinite mana combo, we need as many ways as possible to interact with it. And Echoing Truth is one way of doing that. If it gets us an extra turn, that could win a game. Whereas against more traditional elf decks, again, bouncing things like Dwynen's Elite or Elvish Visionaries, Elvish Mystics is not the best. So I chose to only bring in 1 Echoing Truth for this game. But in the future, you know what? I actually realized after game 2 about the Echoing Truth, and I chose to bring it in. It looks like I chose to cut a single Master of Waves. I guess 3 is probably enough in the matchup. You can see that I drew 2 this time. So let's see what the strategy was for game 3. I took out 2 Reejereys, 1 Master of Waves, 1 Spreading Seas. Pretty similar to the previous plan. In this case, I took out the second Spell Pierce. So I'm taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bringing in 2 Negates, 2 Dispels, 2 Echoing Truths, and 2 Dismembers. So that's more solid than I had in the second game. All right, so we expect to lose to Elves, but I feel like I put up as good a fight as I could have. Unfortunately, I didn't even get to play Magic in game 1. So who knows what would have happened if we actually had a game in game 1. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Leave any questions you might have in the comment section, and check out my Patreon page, please, if you haven't already. And I'll catch you guys in the next video for round 4 of this friendly league. Thanks a lot. I'll see you there. Bye.